believe what we got here is an Awari Satsuma mandarin orange. All the rest of the junk growing all over it is typical local weeds here in Puna. Most of it's Wainaku grass, and then there's a lot of Miley Pilau up there, or stink Miley. There's also some wild cucumber. The Wainaku grass will ordinarily grow 6 or 8 feet high on its own accord, but if it can find any kind of a plant like that poor orange tree to scale in, you're lost. And if that's your orange tree, you're not going to get much yield out of it unless you can figure out how to deal with these weeds. But as you can see, I'm using a woven weed block material. It's the industrial grade stuff that's used for nursery floors here on the island. You go see any commercial grower where they're making growing orchids, house plants, and such, and this is pretty much what you're going to find down on the surface of the soil. It's tough. It stands out in the sun for 12 years, guaranteed by the manufacturer. It'll keep even the worst of weeds from coming through it, and it allows me on this side of the fence to have a good-looking orchard. First thing I usually do to prepare the site is to go out there with either a weed eater, or sometimes I'll even take a four-wheel drive Jeep, just go have fun scrambling over the surface of the soil so I can mash down the grasses, because the grasses here are thick. They're like a mattress. You can't even hardly walk through them without tripping. And so first we have to get them compacted a little bit. Down below over here you see where I have compacted the grasses at the edge of the weed block. Further on the inside of the yard here, we've gotten rid of the grass quite a while ago, and so we have some dragon fruit and ornamentals growing over here along the front of the house. Right over here we've got jaboticaba, and then rows of pineapples inside my citrus. Pineapples will simply pull the slit aside here on the weed block like this, exposing the soil that's underneath. Now the grasses are all rotted away, and we just take the pineapples and stick the tops right in the soil unrooted and let them root right there on the spot. Coffee, there we start a plant and stick the plant into the ground. Now we get 120 inches of rain a year ordinarily. This property is 12 foot deep, beautiful volcanic soil. It's fairly fertile. Just about anything that strikes it grows, and the weeds grow just as well as the bananas. Here I have a home plant nursery with coffee and hibiscus, koa trees, and all sorts of different ornamentals. We've got some fruit trees and stuff started over here. Again, growing right on top of the weed block. And in fact, here we're even using 7-inch discs of weed block on the insides of the pots. Give you a little close up there. See the little pre-cut discs? You can buy those. They're out there on the market, and they make it a lot easier to be able to grow plants in pots around here. I'm often gone for 3-4 months at a time, and when I come back, if I don't have those little weed block discs in the pots, most of the time I have a pot full of 3 or 4 foot tall weeds. It goes without saying that the industrial grade weed block is not the prettiest material I've ever seen. And so here's a case where I've started growing perennial peanut. That's this nice low growing ground cover over here with yellow flowers. I've planted the perennial peanut into a slit in the weed block, and I'm allowing it to spread outward. Right here on the ends I got some 4-inch pots with pieces of it pegged in there with rocks holding it down so I can propagate it, get more, move it around the yard. It makes the weed block look a little bit better out here. It'll also make it last longer. And I've noticed that the weed seeds don't take root as easily in the perennial peanut. I'm also experimenting with a few other ground covers. This one right here is Italian oregano. It doesn't grow as fast as the peanut, but it has a nice feature to it because it's a good herb. It's nice looking, and it's covering the weed block well too. This area right here is the ornamental landscaping at the front door of my house. And so we're trying to make this look a little prettier than the coffee and the pineapples. Right there, the ivy looking thing, that's actually sweet potato. That variety is the Okinawan purple. It grows like an absolute weed here. It's got little morning glory flowers on it. Up the hill behind the house, we have mostly native pile grass mixed with itchy crabgrass up here on top of the hill. I have started planting coffee up the slope behind the house. You see the older plants standing tall over here. These are plants right there that were put in the last 12 months sometime. Here's rows of plants that I just installed in the last week, little baby coffees. And right over here, I am beginning to unroll another roll of weed block. The weed block I'm using is the woven heavy-duty industrial stuff. You can walk right on this stuff. It's just tough as nails. It's hard to hammer anything through. I know people here locally who use this as the floor for temporary shelters. I use this as a floor for my greenhouse. This is a 300-foot long roll by 12 feet long. And the way we do this is I just get out here and start pushing that roll out across the hay field. I overlap it slightly on the existing weed block right there. And as I get a ways down, we go ahead and we stick sod staples in it right there. It's a little metal staple, been poked through it. Over on the other end, the grass is thicker, and so I'm using lava rocks that were dug out of the ground here. The lava rocks will hold it down. And it'll take about 12 months, and the pila grass underneath is going to drop dead. Stuff's pretty tenacious. It takes a little while, but I should be able to get back here, say maybe in about 6 to 12 months, and then begin putting another couple of rows of coffee in. You can see the mess of grass that dangles out of plants around here when they're not tended. Right ahead over here is just an excellent nest of the Wainaku grass that's crawling through a Japanese persimmon over there. I'd lose them all. Everything would pretty much go under the weeds. There's philodendrons jumping out of the woods back there. So by using this weed block as a floor under my farm, it eliminates the need for herbicides, it eliminates the need for cultivation. Eventually, everything beneath my coffee plants and my fruit trees here will have passed away. And as I get to spend more time here, we'll take up a lot of this weed block, move it to other applications, and I'll begin putting compost down on the soil around the plants as a mulch, as opposed to the weed block. It isn't the most organic material that I've ever used, but under these circumstances, gardening and farming in eastern Hawaii is an extreme activity, a lot like hang gliding or snowboarding, and I think it calls for materials like this, especially if you're not present all the time.